welcome to the session. Today I will present you first Optiyol, who we are, what we do, and then focus on route optimization, the algorithm part of it, and then the execution piece. Once you optimize the routes, how they are executed and how it provides visibility. Some differentiations in route optimization. As you know, there are many people who offer this. It's not a new problem, but what we bring to the table, and some other general information about this. So as founders, our background is in industrial engineering. We started the company with Tuba. We studied in Turkey for college and then went to United States, to Georgia Tech, to do our PhD in operations research and industrial engineering. So we've been working in supply chain optimization for a long while in Turkey, United States, and Australia. And then we started the company in 2015. Our CTO is coming from a software background. So for this type of solutions, we need algorithms and someone to build the software, use the interface, the backend. So that's how we formed the team. Our customers are in logistics, FMCG, food and beverage, retail industries mostly. Initially, we started as a supply chain consultancy, worked with some multinational brands for their network design projects. So our first project was, for example, with Unilever. Their ice cream business was selling ice cream in 200,000 locations, and they were fulfilled from 90 warehouses. So our first project was to optimize the locations and sizes of those warehouses and optimizing the customer and depot assignments. And we did similar project with Philip Morris, Ferrero, and a brewery company called Anadolu Efes. And we observed that the route planning, the day-to-day route planning was also very manual. It was done by very experienced dispatchers. Even if they had some solution, they were not utilized very effectively. Then we started developing the algorithms, and end of 2018, we launched our cloud-based software on AWS and started serving big logistics, supply, FMCG, CPG companies. So a few examples for here is like Arvato, maybe you may know from a European company. The others are mostly in Turkey, and we have some customers in Korea and United States. So our goal is making logistics efficient and on time. In terms of traction, we have 30 live customers. We optimize about 1,500 routes, 7 million deliveries. But we have a very strong pipeline, customers currently integrating or rolling out the solution. So what we target end of this year is about 700 million deliveries to be optimized. Some of these companies in the pipeline have 1 million delivery. One company itself needs optimization. So for route optimization, it can be applied in many areas, transportation of goods or transportation of services. So today the presentation is focused on transportation of goods and focused on last mile. So last mile can be residential last mile, home deliveries, or it can be B2B last mile, delivering to grocery stores, for example, for FMCG companies, food and beverage companies. Competitive retail space. So why do we have this conference even is related to boom in e-commerce. As customers, we want to get direct delivery. We don't want to pay extra. We want it free. We want it on time. We want it at our own terms. Like at this time, at this day, we want our packages. So for shippers, they have this pressure to deliver on time. They need to reduce their costs to stay competitive, to offer free shipping. And they need to gain visibility. So they want to make sure their customers are getting a good service, because the customers are not visiting their stores anymore. The only interaction is the delivery process. If you have a good delivery process, you keep that customer or earn new customers. Otherwise, you are losing them. For carriers, it's also a higher demand. So carriers were mostly doing B2B deliveries to retail stores. But now they need to deliver door to door with a very high volume, millions of addresses every day. And these addresses are dynamic. Every day you are delivering to a different group of homes instead of fixed stores. So the problem is much larger for them. And to stay competitive, it's a very low profit industry. I will give you some numbers. They need to reduce costs as much as possible to stay profitable. And they need to digitalize operations because they need to offer the visibility to these retailers. If they are not digital, they don't know where the packages are, what time they will be received. They cannot give an estimated time of arrival. So we have one like customer sitting there, they're a retailer. They're working with a carrier, parcel delivery. During the pandemic, they didn't get a good service because the packages were late, customers were asking, they couldn't provide any visibility. They started their own delivery company. So that's how we started serving them. If you cannot serve them, carriers, the retailers do it themselves, like Amazon did as well. On the driver side, being a driver, is not a lifetime job anymore. They don't know the addresses very well. Everyone can be a driver after the Uber thing. Everyone is a driver. So they need to get pre-planned routes, well sequenced to minimize their time on traffic, so that they can deliver more packages in a day. And that's how they are compensated. If they have good routes, they can deliver, instead of 40 packages, they can deliver 50, earn more, and stay with your company. Otherwise, they go work for another carrier. So that's also important. So Optiyol customers are shippers and carriers, and customers and drivers are benefiting from it. So for shippers, when they were in the brick and mortar store world, logistic costs were not very significant, $3 to $5 for $100 revenue. Now it's about $12 to $20 of their revenue is going to logistics, so it's more critical for them to optimize logistics. For the carrier side, as I mentioned, their profit margin is very thin, like 3.6%. In an average industry, this is 10%. So if you reduce their costs by 15%, it's a 5x impact on their profit margin. So it's really a very high motivation to reduce costs. Even small cost efficiencies are very helpful. So what we provide to them? So there were two things. One is optimizing costs, and the second is bringing visibility. So for the optimization part, we help them for fleet selection. So if you have a pool of orders, what kind of trucks do I need? How many trucks I need? How do I allocate orders to each truck? And how to sequence these visits. If a driver needs to do 100 addresses, how to best sequence them. That's the planning part. And for execution, we provide a driver app to help them follow the routes and then for tracking them. The savings are around 15 to 25% in fuel costs, 5 to 10% in fleet size, and on-time performance is improved by 20 to 30%. This comes from two ways, on-time visits. One is in the optimization, you can explicitly say that this order needs to be delivered between 10 a.m. to 12. The other order between 1 and 3 p.m. This is considered. Otherwise, drivers can create their own routes. If you don't give them a plan, they visit a customer who wants an afternoon delivery. They say, they ring the bell, your package is here, which is not a good customer experience. The other is we save time. So if you save time, reduce travel time, then you can also deliver more packages, deliver maybe 1 day early. You can make more deliveries in a day. A customer problem. This is one of our first last mile customers. They have 34 distribution centers. They deliver big box items like refrigerators, TVs for German brands like Bosch, Siemens in Turkey for about 2.5 million deliveries annually. So all of the planning was manual. So they had a dispatcher in every distribution center. It was relying on them. If he's on vacation, if he's sick, then the routes were not good. Also, it's like with human work, it wasn't very optimized. So they approached us and we started working them. They are using Optiyol for 3 years. And estimated savings are $1 million per year. So how we achieve this is with this last mile optimization solution. So on a map, as you see, there are points that we need to cover. We have orders and we have available fleet. Data about them, which I will go in detail later. Like basically the order location, order size, the required vehicle properties, time windows. And we have data about our available fleet. So the optimization runs and finds how many trucks and what type of trucks. It can be a heterogeneous fleet. You may have trucks, vans, bicycles, motorbikes, so which ones to use and how many of them. How to assign orders. Each color shows an allocation to a vehicle. And for each vehicle, what's the best sequence? So in what order they should visit the customers. And this is not just about minimizing the distance, because you may have two customers very nearby, but one may want in the morning, the other one may want in the afternoon. So sometimes it's best to assign it to two different trucks instead of him waiting or coming back. So that's the sequencing problem for them, especially if you have time windows, it's very important. And let me come back. The other advantage is when you optimize and sequence, you can get estimated arrival times. So instead of telling the customers that your package will be delivered during the day, giving them a very wide range, you can tell them exactly what time their package will arrive. So our users send an SMS to them in the morning that your estimated arrival for your package is between like 10 a.m. and 11. So in terms of data, we have data about orders, their pickup location, delivery location, the order size. It can be volume, weight, boxes, pallets. It can be multidimensional. The time windows, both for pickups and deliveries. How much time it takes to pick up, how much time it takes to deliver. I'll also go into details of it, whether it will take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. In the past, like the classical system asks from the user But now, if you have mobile app, we can track and collect data about actual delivery times. And with machine learning, we can predict how much time it will take to deliver each package. In what percentage rate we will be able to find that customer at home. And in terms of fleet, there's start locations, end locations. End location is important. Do they come back to the warehouse? Or if they go home, you may need to design a different route. If you are not paying for the return trip, it's one way, then it's another routing. It all changes the route plan. The costs, their available working hours, and some rules. The rules are also important for a realistic route plan. For each order, you can specify the requirements. So this order should be carried by a vehicle which has this properties ABC. Otherwise, it's not feasible, or incompatibilities. We can put some preference about road restrictions. So if you want to avoid certain road segments, it can be considered by the algorithm. What we generally do is when we meet with a potential user, we get data. For example, data from last week's deliveries. We can simulate and calculate how many trucks they used, what was the total distance, what was the total cost of their existing, run it with the same data in optimization and show potential savings. So in the example, about instead of 37, it was optimal to use 35 and reduce mileage by 18%. A similar result below with a more bigger case. So up to now, it was about planning and route optimization. So once we optimize the routes, to execute them, we have a mobile app. We can send this route to the drivers. They can see the route on the map and also as a list. And one by one, follow the route. When they want to go to next location, they can get directions, which is connected to live navigation with live traffic. They can get turn-by-turn directions from there. And then when they arrive, they log their arrival. I arrived to this location. When they successfully deliver, they can do proof of delivery, get signature, take photos, add notes. And if it's unsuccessful, they can do a cancellation, enter a reason of why it was not successful, like the package may be damaged, the address may be wrong. And from the central view, the operation managers can see what's going on the field. For each route, the progress, how many orders are delivered, how many remained, what are canceled, all the documents, pictures, they can see it. And they can see live location of each truck from GPS. And they can also do re-optimization. If there are new orders coming in during the day, they can re-optimize the route, which updates the route plans for the drivers. And for the end customers, we provide a tracking page, a unique link for each delivery. They can see their home, the live location of the truck, estimated arrival time, and they can send instructions to the courier, like leave it to my door, leave it to my neighbor, leave it to security, and send some specific instructions, which is immediately visible to the driver app, which improves the customer experience as well. And at the end, they can provide evaluation and feedback. So how we serve, we have an optimization engine. That's the basic thing. So some users, if they are big scale, they just use optimization engine through APIs. But for some customers, if they want to use end-to-end all features, the web UI, the mobile app, and tracking, we provide the full suite. So what makes it work? Actually, this is why it didn't work before. Actually, these are the answers to what we did. The previous route plans, we saw that they were missing some real-world constraints. So that's why they had an optimization, but when you give it to the drivers, they weren't following the routes exactly, because it was missing lots of the parameters. So we built a very comprehensive model to model almost all real-world constraints. We can do tailor fit for each operation, because for some operations, they are OK to lose maybe 2% of the cost saving, but provide more easy, relaxed routes for the drivers. Maybe use one more driver, but make it easy for them. So we can have this tailor fit solution. With the same data, you can generate alternative solutions. The third one is self-learning mechanism. So when we ask them how much time it takes to deliver, everyone says, for example, 10 minutes per package. But it's not the same for all. In some locations, maybe we can deliver in 2 minutes. In some places, very hard to access, very hard to park, it may take 30 minutes. So the self-learning mechanism learns from historical performance and then predicts how much the delivery time for the future. And also, we are doing analysis about the driving score, compliance score, whether they follow the suggested routes or not, and understand why they are not following and try to find the root cause. Maybe some time window is missing. There's an area in the city which they cannot enter in certain hours. It's not allowed. And if it's not considered by the algorithm may still be suggesting morning delivery instead of if they cannot do. We understand if they don't go there in the morning, we understand and change the parameters, and next time we optimize, they visit there in the afternoon. And multiple stakeholder view is we have shippers and carriers. Sometimes the route plan is run by the shippers. Sometimes it's run by the carriers. For carriers, the cost function is different. They are paying the real fuel cost, the wages of the drivers. They need to optimize that. For shippers, maybe their agreement is based on certain zones. If you deliver to this zone, there may be a package price. So they may not be interested in actual fuel costs. So we need to optimize from their perspective as well. So we can handle those type of different cost structures. So our investors, we are a startup, as I mentioned. We are backed by Ford Motor Company's corporate venture arm, a Turkish telecom company, and European Urban Mobility. We just got selected to European Sustainable Cities Accelerator. So we are really working on improving urban logistics. So in terms of R&D, we are working on now electric vehicles, and we are trying to build solutions also for autonomous. We are trying to build partnerships, which is the future of delivery. Some awards, we got selected for one of the top 50 startups in clean mobility in Europe recently. We won MediaMarkt Startup Challenge. We are running a pilot with them, with deliveries in Turkey. Right now, recognized by Fast Company. And Seed Stars is a Swiss-based VC. We also were top 5 finalists globally. These are some calculations about the sustainability piece. So our team made a calculation since 2020. We optimized more than 300,000 routes and 52 million kilometers. So overall, the estimation is 2.8 million kilograms of CO2 emissions was saved through optimization. So it's also helpful for the environment. And which also corresponds to 56,000 trees planted, this overall savings. Okay, this was my presentation. At the end, I also want to show you a demo video of the product so you get a feel of it. And then we will have some Q&A with Martin.
Yeah, so first of all... No, go ahead.
Excel or API. This shows an Excel version.
Thank you, Ozan. So, quite impressive, and like I mentioned before, it was all about how to have the chief algorithm really bring across the solution. And actually, the demo, it's a good part of showing it at the end. Really shows it is very tangible and plug and play. So first of all, are there any questions? Maybe even some experiences yourself about the tool and the possibilities of bringing this all together in one platform? Anyone? Yep.
Just a kind of question about what you presented here up on screen. So it looks like, at least what you've shown, quite a long process, uploading the Excel, you've got the multiple drop locations. I would have thought that like maybe the biggest opportunity for this kind of route optimization software would be in like the space of quick commerce, right? Like where there's, 10 minutes from consumer order coming into the order expected at their door. So is there a kind of particular profile of last mile delivery provider that you're orientating towards, or is it really everything from like 3-4 day delivery through to like 10-minute delivery windows, such as like Getir or a quick commerce company?
Right. So this was like the video was with Excel to show, but normally we are integrated with almost all customers through APIs. So the optimization is triggered through API, all the data received through API, and then the results are sent back through API. Anything happening on the mobile app, when they arrive and they start, immediate notifications are going back to customer systems through APIs. The quick commerce is not our target right now because, as you said, it's really immediate. Maybe one or at most two orders can be combined. But slots, there are multiple slots in a day, like 2-hour, 3-hour window. We have customers like that. Some online vitamin supplement, for example, retailer, they are using it. So every 3 hours they run a new optimization for that. But it's most suitable for that. Then you can combine multiple orders. So either our current customers are optimizing the whole day or multiple slots in the day.
I also have a question.
Yep.
So this is for delivery. Are you also thinking of optimizing routes for returns?
Yes. For orders, we have an input like order type. It can be delivery or pickup, but it can be pickup and delivery. It cannot be like a central depot. You may be picking up from multiple locations, delivering to multiple locations. That's also considered by the algorithm, especially in terms of the capacity of the truck. Because when it's full with dispatch with deliveries, then pickups are scheduled later on when they deliver and then have enough capacity. So we can plan mixed routes with deliveries and pickups.
Does it also include loading the truck, how in which order and how to load the truck?
The 3D loading piece, we don't do it right now. But we get input about multiple capacities, like the volume capacity, weight capacity, pallets. If some items, for example, for household goods, refrigerators need to be at the bottom of the truck. So we get the square meters, like the bottom area, and then also limit that. So we give them a plan which is feasible in terms of like the base area, volume, weight, pallet, number of boxes, and then they can load it with a third-party 3D loading software.
Okay, and then the driver loads itself according to the route.
Yeah. Generally, they load it the reverse way. We give them like a sequence, they load in the opposite way, and then they provide it.
So it's about having multiple stakeholders, like shippers, like carriers, right? So,
yes.
And it's about optimization. So you have, who is in the lead? Are you taking the lead, or do shippers over the carriers? So how do you manage that actually before establishing any optimization?
Yeah, when we meet a retailer, we ask them, for example, in this event we met many retailers, we are asking them, do you have your own fleet or do you outsource it, and do you have any control over the routes? So if they have control over the routes, shippers become our customers because the carriers, the higher the cost, maybe it's better, they earn more, they charge based on the cost, some of them. So shippers become our users, they optimize routes, and then make an agreement with the carrier that the carrier's drivers need to download Optiyol app and use it. That's one use case. But still, most of them are carriers, because for carriers, the costs are now really high. They're also looking for efficiencies and visibility. But sometimes we do two-way. The shipper, the carrier, and Optiyol, we come together. We integrate with both. The orders data come from the shipper. The fleet data is coming from the carrier. We match them, assign them. The carrier drivers are using the app, but any action from the app is going back to the shipper so that they can update their website, they can notify their customer status. So it can be a two-way integration as well.
And when it comes to optimization, so the objectives, is there something to share about cost saving, like a minimum or a maximum, based on your experience, because you serve a broad range of a market?
Right.
Is there a difference?
Yeah, in last mile, typically the range is 15 to 25% in total distance, and 5 to 10% in number of vehicles, the fleet size, and also on-time performance. For some customers, the customer service is more important. They are selling expensive items. The cost maybe is not that important for them, but customer experience is more. Those companies are looking also for more the visibility features, the tracking features as well. At the typical range, I can say on average 20% cost saving.
Okay. And when it comes to the electrifying of fleet,
Right.
is there something you should take into consideration about maybe even charging a fleet, because it loses some time? Can you share already some experience in that field?
Yes, for electric vehicles, the thing is they have a certain range. So in the algorithm, we used to have constraints for driving time. Like they can start routes at 9 a.m., they need to finish by 5 p.m., for example, from driver perspective. But now we need to take as an input the remaining range of each fleet so that we assign them a route which can feasibly be executed. Otherwise, we should plan for them to come back, recharge, and then do their second trip. That's one thing. And also from map service provider, we are currently getting the road distance and travel time. So from A to B, 10 kilometers, let's say 25 minutes. Now we need to get, the map service providers are working on it, how much energy will be used between those locations. So that will also be an input to the optimizer. So in addition to minimizing distance, we will also have an objective to minimize energy usage. So that will be another impact for the algorithms.
So it's actually a kind of education to the drivers, because if they are not driving, in this case electrified, according to the prediction or the standards,
Yes.
they will end up in problems. And
There are also some partners, they use the driving behavior of the drivers. So they brake, their driving efficiency. So for electric vehicles, it will be more important so that our estimated ranges are correct.
all right. I don't want to take anything of you. So if there's some burning questions, no. So when it comes to, like you said, the type of customers, of course, there's a difference between outsourced and insourced, but maybe you can even ask the question now, why even bother of outsourcing, right? So do you see a trend in when this kind of tools are at hand,
Yes.
that maybe the decision of in or outsourcing is more into do it yourself?
Yeah, the insourcing is now easy. Maybe in the past they were afraid of building a logistics technology. Now these things can be outsourced from us or from some other providers. So they have the technology. They can just put in their orders, available fleet data, optimize routes, and even connect with crowdsourced delivery platforms, and then give them the exact routes. Instead of paying per package, then they can pay for the whole route, so that they get a quote from an efficient route. Otherwise, they were paying for the inefficiencies of the carrier. If the carrier is inefficient, they are charging more. So you have control to optimize it beforehand, and all the technology is available to do it.
And nothing is robust in logistics. So you have an optimized plan sent out to the drivers.
Right.
And what in case of any disruption, how fast is this model going to adapt and actually giving an updated route to the fleet?
Right. So it can be re-optimized during the day, maybe after each delivery or in a scheduled time. Let's say update every 10 minutes. We know the exact current positions of the trucks. So at the beginning, we optimized based on that they will be dispatched from a depot. Now we know their live locations, maybe 2 hours from dispatch. We know the remaining orders. Maybe new orders might have come in between. So the algorithm can run a very quick re-optimization and update routes, so update their remaining schedules efficiently. So instead of telling your customers your package will be next day, you may satisfy some of them during the day if you can re-optimize.
And you mentioned that you are about to get a new round of funding.
Right.
So let's say you take 3 million in due course. What is the next best thing you want to improve or to scale?
Right.
Can you share a bit of the secrets you're about to?
Yeah, a bit of that is like getting Optiyol known by many users, expanding different markets. We have our first users in South Korea and United States, and Europe with EIT, as I mentioned, we'll be growing in Europe as well. So some of that is. In terms of R&D, we are working on some middle mile problems, like the movements between different warehouses. That's also another area which is really manual. The electric vehicle part is another R&D area, as I mentioned, and then we improve these learning mechanisms because drivers also have some knowledge which the map service providers cannot capture. So to make it as realistic as possible, we are trying to learn from this crowdsourced like wisdom of all drivers, like even from many companies using Optiyol. We collect lots of data about how difficult it is to find a parking space, learn the best time for parking, and even plan the route at the times where the parking is much easier. So those are the machine learning piece is a big part of our R&D currently.
All right, I can go on, but that's not the purpose of today. Yeah, maybe it triggered some other questions. Very good.
Just a quick question from me. So I noticed on the opening slide you had where you were sharing kind of some of the companies that you work with. I think you had, I don't know if it was P&G or Unilever on there, which is obviously a branded manufacturer, right? So then I guess not owning their own fleets, like how would you work with that kind of company and what kind of service can you bring to them? Does that make sense?
Right. First, the first mile part of them, from manufacturing plants to local distributors, those movements, they have like FTL, LTL options. What's the best split of that? So we have an FMCG customer like that. We optimize that maybe 80% should be in FTL. These orders should be in LTL based on the optimized cost structure. That's like the multiple stakeholder view. So they have a different cost structure. And in terms of last mile, they work with independent distributors. But if the distributors are operating inefficiently, that's also hitting the parent company because if their costs are high, they need to split more share of their revenue with the independent distributors. Also in terms of customer service, if they cannot serve the stores on time, then they face with stock out. So for them, that's important. With the chocolates and biscuits manufacturers like Pledis, they own the Godiva and McVitie's brands. So we optimize 1,000 routes for them in Turkey. So they forced the independent distributors to use Optiyol. And then they are really happy because it's saving for distributors and it's good for them for more sales, less stock out. So they incentivize, even they share the cost of using Optiyol with distributors, half of them 50-50.
Is that a white label solution then for carriers to implement?
We can do white label, like we can specify like they can use their own logos, maybe even they can use our own branded mobile app. We can offer white label service as well.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe one last question for me is you spoke about, let's say, in traditional one guy fully responsible for this kind of task, and if he's away, then everything shuts down. So how do you avoid yourself and also in the company that all the knowledge is not only with you or with one machine? So how do you expand and how do you attract actually some clever people to bring it an extra mile?
To Optiyol, like to attracting talent. So it's like a new, like growing area. Everyone, the new generation, they want to do like data mining, machine learning. So in industrial engineering, in our way, like the optimization was the key thing. Like when I talk to industrial engineering students, we also teach sometimes part-time. They're all interested in data analytics, so they find these opportunities really exciting. So we have like many applications. We have like over 20 applications for summer internship from like data analytics students. So it's a good area, a growing area. We find a good talent.
All right, well, give a big cheer and have some fun later on this afternoon.